Now, there are different types of mediators. You have attorney mediators, we kind of talked about that a bit. You have non-attorney mediators, such as yourself. And you have court mediators. You have the mediators at the court as part of the process. Could you touch a bit on the differences between, say, an attorney mediator, we're talking about the litigation mindset, non-attorney mediators, and I'd also like to know, at the end of the day, when you're done with mediation, what do they walk away with? And how is that beneficial to, say, you've mediated, Tim, we have all the conditions, the terms were ironed out. What do they have at the end of that? They have some type of a written agreement, that sort of thing.
Okay, so now the judge, it's a requirement, especially in family law, you have to meet with a family law mediator. The LA Superior Court systems require that mediator in the courthouse to be an attorney. They don't allow non-attorney mediators in that process.
So what she's saying is when you go to, if you're going to go to court for a trial or a hearing of any type, you have to go to the court mediator first before they would talk to the judge. They're hoping in that court mediation that you'll come to an agreement before seeing the judge. So that's what you're referring to.
Which is almost in my mind, and I've seen the other side in different organizations I've worked with. I've taken clients as I've advocated for them or represented them in a different organization. I've taken them to mediation. And this was while I was going to school to get my graduate degree in mediation, and I just thought this is not what I thought it would be like. This is not what I think the pure mediation process should be like. They give you about 15 minutes, maybe. They are attorneys, so they ask very directive questions. They will flat out say, no, I don't think that you should agree to that.
Really? So they're not really neutral.
They're not.
At that point. This is the court.
These are the court mandated, hired by the courts, the ones that they require you to talk to before you come into the judge.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, but they pretty much are bullied. They're a little bit bullied into making this agreement quickly. You don't have a lot of time. The judge is waiting on you. Let's just get this run through. And it's an intimidating process for people.
And the reason I want to bring up the difference between court mediators, attorney mediators, and non-attorney mediators is because they're not there to sit for 2 or 3 hours and have these sessions and on your time, on your schedule. You're talking about a line of people a day or two prior to, or even on the day of your hearing, going in there, and they have 100 other people to mediate. They're pushing you through. So that's not what I call professional paid mediation, which is what you have, which is on your time. So I just want to get these differences out there. So why don't you talk a little bit about attorney mediators, people that are attorneys, and then they also offer mediation services, that litigation mindset.
Well, like I said, the mediation process is starting to kind of have a resurgence, a little bit of a rebirth, because like I said, it's never really gone away. It's just our particular culture has kind of smashed it down because of our different way of looking at things. It's coming back. Attorneys are very aware that that's something that may be a little bit of competition for them because they want to keep that adversarial. They want to drag these cases out. They want to have all of these billed hours. That's why they went to law school. So they see mediation and say, that's something that maybe I can do as part of my law practice. I can add that for a little bit more income and then give people the peace of mind. Oh, yeah, I've heard about mediation. I know you've read about it. I offer that as well. But the people are not getting the pure mediation process. They're getting an attorney who took a couple of weeks of training and is going to try their best to represent both people, when in their mind it's like, no, he should be doing that. No, she should be doing that. No, he should not be giving into that. And they're very directive.
So what kind of issues could come from that? Why is that not the probably best way of mediating?
Ideally, obviously you can't be completely neutral. I've had cases where I relate more. Sometimes it's not always to the wife. Sometimes I relate more to the husband and think, what is her problem? She's being so, unreasonable. But you need to and sometimes you can even say that to the person. Say, you know what? It feels to me like you are kind of, you're putting obstacles in the way of this, and what is it that you really are wanting right now?
Thing?
What's going on with you? And you can take them and separate them and not have the other person in and say, we've kind of come to a standstill. Let's hear what's going on with you. What is so important about this set of spoons that we're going to take 2 sessions on the set of spoons. You want to figure out what's the underlying
It's not about the
cause.
spoons. There's something else there.
Not about the spoons. It never is.
I mean, you have the master's degree in psychology. So you probably could pick up on those things.
It's a different background, and I think, definitely the attorneys are not going to want to take the time. I had an attorney I got to know pretty well in a training, and he said, as soon as the wife starts crying and they start going at it, I get up and I walk down the hall and talk to somebody until I can hear it's quieted down.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to deal with that.
But isn't that the point where someone really needs to be in the room?
Yes.
Like that should be the opposite.
Yes. And that's the mediator's job. As a neutral party, I'm here for both of you. Yeah, sometimes you're being a pain and you're kind of dragging the process down. Yes, and sometimes it's the other party, and you can sometimes call them out on that. But we want to bring the level of contention down. That's the only way, because I think we've had conversations before where you say people make the worst decisions when they're emotionally charged.
Right.
They don't make good decisions. So a lot of times a whole session will be letting them vent these emotions in a safe room where they feel like they can be heard. The other person is respectful, doesn't interrupt. Attorneys just don't know that process, and they don't have the patience to go through that kind of thing.
So folks are having difficulty communicating. They hire an attorney mediator to mediate for them, and they get to the point where they're having trouble talking, which is exactly what they hired them for. They get up and walk away.
Right.
So
you let me know when you're done. We'll get back to crunching the numbers.
Yeah.
Because they just want the process to get done, and they just want to kind of assure the public, we know mediation's another process, and we've read about it, and we offer that as well. But there's no way that it can be the same kind of process. It's litigation.
The mindset
for both of them. It's
and
just
by the way, when the attorney gets up to go talk down the hall while you're arguing, you're still
they're
getting
billing
billed.
you.
Yeah.
They're billing you. 0.6, 0.5.
Yeah. So finally then on non-attorney mediation, so with your services, we've talked about the court and how that doesn't seem very ideal, attorney litigation mindset, and now with yours, how does that work? In comparison.
And that's
and we've talked about it a little bit.
And this is such a great opportunity because it's like you said, people just aren't aware that this is an option for them. They feel like we can get attorneys and go to war. Okay, we've heard about this mediation process. Okay, my attorney offers mediation, and they feel like that's their only other option. And it maybe is a better process than litigation, but the mediator you're working with is still looking ahead to thinking, we're probably going to end up in litigation anyway, and so that's kind of the end game. When you're coming from a completely different background, and I've met other mediators from like family therapists are taking on mediation because they have seen the aftermath of what happens to families, and they've had to deal with that, and now they're trying to prevent all of that chaos and disaster and destruction by offering mediation services, which I think is a great background, but a lot of times they feel like they need to partner up with an attorney to make themselves legitimate, and then the process kind of gets tainted again by that attorney fee setup, the litigation mindset, and it kind of goes off track just a little bit. But as far as finding a mediator that fits, and it has to be a good fit. You have to feel comfortable with the person. You have to trust them. You have to feel like, okay, this person's listening to me. This person, I don't feel like it's going to take my husband's side or my wife's side in this. I think that's a worry for some people. How are you going to be, how are you going to go take her side on this? Are you going to feel like she's right and I'm wrong? And I mean, that's a worry. Nobody can be really impartial. But as a mediator, that's our job, is to do that at the best.